What if the reason your memory is getting worse has nothing to do with aging? Not the calendar, not your genetics. A protein. One specific protein your brain started producing less of, quietly, without warning, and that most doctors never mention. That shift you have been feeling, the slower recall, the word that just will not come, it has a specific cause and a specific fix. No prescription, no expensive supplement protocol. One thing, prepared correctly, that the research actually supports. My name is Dr. Gloria Reed. I spent over 20 years in integrative neurology, the last decade focused specifically on cognitive aging. What I'm going to show you today is peer-reviewed science that has not made it into the standard conversation between doctors and patients. Before I explain the mechanism, I want to give you something you can use today.
Here is what I want you to do tomorrow morning. Before breakfast, before coffee, take 1 tablespoon of any dried mushroom you have at home. Shiitake, button, portobello, any variety works for this. Chew it slowly for about 2 minutes. Do not swallow immediately. Let your mouth and the back of your throat do the work. Here is why this matters. Mushrooms contain compounds called beta-glucans. When you chew them slowly, beta-glucan receptors in your mouth and gut lining are activated within minutes. That activation sends a signal up the vagus nerve, the main communication highway between your gut and your brain. One of the signals that travels that pathway is a weak but real stimulus to BDNF production, the protein I am going to explain in a moment. This is not the full protocol. It will not replace what I am going to show you later, but it starts the same biological signal. Today, for free, with something most people already have in their kitchen. 2 minutes of slow chewing every morning, before anything else. Keep that in mind, because when I show you the full protocol later, this piece is what makes everything else work faster. Most people believe that memory loss after 60 is about losing brain cells, and that is not entirely wrong. But here is the part that changes everything, and that almost nobody explains. You are not running out of neurons. What is declining is the protein that keeps your existing neurons alive, connected, and capable of forming new memories. That protein has a name: brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF. Think of BDNF as the fertilizer for your brain, not a metaphor. A functional description of what it does. Every neuron in your brain requires a continuous supply of BDNF to maintain its structure, extend its connections to neighboring cells, and stay active in the communication network that forms and retrieves memories. Without adequate BDNF, neurons do not die dramatically. They do something worse. They shrink. They retract. They go quiet. The connections between them weaken and eventually disconnect, silently, gradually, over months and years. After 60, BDNF production declines in almost every adult. The rate varies. Lifestyle, sleep and diet all influence how fast, but the direction is nearly universal. And the part of the brain where this decline hits hardest is the hippocampus, the region responsible for forming new memories and retrieving recent ones. This is why you can still remember your childhood perfectly. Those memories were formed when BDNF was abundant, in a hippocampus that was fully active. The struggle is with what happened last week, last month, last year. The period when BDNF has been declining and the hippocampus has been slowly losing its fertilizer. Before I go further, have you ever tried a standard memory supplement and felt like nothing changed? B vitamins, fish oil, ginkgo, the usual list, and still felt like the fog was not lifting? Just comment yes or no below. I want to know, because what comes next is specifically about why those approaches miss the target and what hits it. Let me give you the full picture of what BDNF actually does, because once you understand the mechanism, the solution becomes obvious. Your brain has roughly 86 billion neurons. They do not work independently. They work in networks. chains of cells that pass electrical and chemical signals from one to the next. For a memory to form, those signals have to travel a specific path repeatedly, strengthening the connections between neurons along that path. For a memory to be retrieved, those same connections have to be activated again, quickly and accurately. BDNF is what maintains those connections. It acts on a specific receptor on the surface of neurons called TRKB, pronounced track B. When BDNF binds to TRKB, it triggers the neuron to grow new dendrites, the branch-like extensions that reach toward neighboring cells. More dendrites mean more connections. More connections mean faster retrieval, clearer recall, and better ability to form new memories. When BDNF is low, the opposite happens. Dendrites retract. The network becomes sparse. Signals that used to travel quickly now take longer, or arrive incomplete. This is what you experience as the pause before a word comes, the blank where a name used to be, the sentence that started clearly and then lost its thread. A landmark study published in the journal Experimental Neurology in 2012, led by Dr. Alexis Baggia at the Karolinska Institute in Stockholm, found that hippocampal BDNF levels in adults over 60 were on average 37% lower than in adults in their 40s, and that the reduction correlated directly with measurable performance differences in verbal memory and processing speed. The cells were still there. The BDNF was not. This is where the mushroom you chewed this morning comes back in. The beta-glucan pathway you activated through slow chewing is one of several pathways that stimulate TRKB signaling. It is a small signal. Think of it as tapping on the door. The full protocol I am going to show you kicks that door open, but tapping first means the door responds faster when the full signal arrives. Now here is the second mechanism, and this one is specific to lion's mane. Lion's mane mushroom contains two classes of compounds found nowhere else in nature, hericenones and erinacines. These are small molecules, small enough to cross the blood-brain barrier, which most compounds cannot. Once inside the brain, they stimulate the production of nerve growth factor, or NGF. NGF is a close relative of BDNF, where BDNF primarily maintains existing connections. NGF stimulates the growth of entirely new ones, a process called neurogenesis, new neurons forming in the adult brain, specifically in the hippocampus. This was considered impossible by mainstream neuroscience until the late 1990s. It is no longer in doubt. Think of it this way. If BDNF is the water that keeps the garden alive, NGF is the seed. One maintains what is already growing. The other plants new growth where there was none. Lion's mane, prepared correctly, raises both because hericenones and erinacines stimulate NGF, and the beta-glucans in the same mushroom support BDNF through the vagal pathway. One food, two mechanisms, working on the same problem from two different directions. A double-blind, placebo-controlled trial published in Phytotherapy Research in 2009, conducted by Dr. Koichiro Mori and his team at Ishinomaki Tohoku University in Japan, followed 30 adults with mild cognitive impairment over 16 weeks. Half received lion's mane extract, half received placebo. The extract group showed statistically significant improvement on cognitive function scales at weeks 8, 12, and 16. When the extract was stopped, scores declined again. The mechanism was not a mystery. It was the NGF stimulation from the hericenones. The delivery method was a hot water extract. These two mechanisms do not work in isolation. They feed each other. BDNF keeps the existing network alive long enough for new NGF-stimulated neurons to integrate into it. Address only one and the results are partial. Address both simultaneously, which the correct preparation of lion's mane does, and the results are what the research actually shows. Before I walk you through exactly how to do this, I want to be direct with you. What I am describing is not a replacement for medical care. If you are on medication, speak to your doctor before adding anything new. What this is an evidence-supported, low-risk addition that works alongside what you are already doing. It does not interfere with most standard medications. But if you are on immunosuppressants or blood thinners, check first. Most people who try lion's mane do one thing that completely cancels the benefit. They take it as a dry capsule, or they buy a powder and stir it cold into water or a smoothie. And then, when nothing changes after 3 weeks, they conclude that it does not work. Here is what is actually happening. Lion's mane mushroom has a cell wall made of chitin, the same hard material in insect exoskeletons. The hyacinthines and erinacines are locked inside that cell wall. Your digestive system is not well equipped to break chitin down efficiently. When you swallow a dry capsule or cold mixed powder, most of the active compounds pass through you intact. You are absorbing the carrier, the chitin shell, without the compound it was protecting. Heat breaks that wall, specifically sustained hot water contact, water near boiling, held in contact with the mushroom material for a minimum of 12 to 15 minutes. This is what the Mori study used. This is what the research is based on. And this is the one step that most commercial capsule products skip entirely because it adds cost and complexity to manufacturing. Here is the correct way. What? Dried lion's mane mushroom, whole or sliced, not a commercial capsule. Look for certified, organic, verified species, Hericium erinaceus. You can find it in Asian grocery stores, health food stores, or online suppliers who specify the species name on the label. How to prepare. Bring 2 cups of filtered water to just below boiling, around 185 to 195 degrees Fahrenheit. Add 5 to 8 grams of dried lion's mane, roughly 1 heaping tablespoon of slices, or 1.5 to 2 teaspoons of coarsely broken pieces. Reduce heat to a low simmer. Keep the lid on to prevent evaporative loss of volatile compounds. Simmer for exactly 15 minutes. Do not boil aggressively. That degrades the erinacines. Strain the liquid. What you have is a hot water extract. The hyacinthines and erinacines are now dissolved in the liquid, fully bioavailable. When? Drink this on an empty stomach 30 minutes before breakfast. Consuming it in a fasted state increases the uptake of both hyacinthines and erinacines through the intestinal wall. Fat slows this particular absorption pathway, which is the opposite of the DHA protocol some of you may have seen discussed elsewhere. Lion's mane extract, empty stomach, morning before food. How much? The research used preparations containing approximately 1,000 to 1,500 milligrams of extracted solids. With the home preparation method I described, a 15-minute extraction of 5 to 8 grams of dried material produces approximately that range of dissolved solids in the resulting liquid. You do not need to measure milligrams. The preparation method handles the dosing. What not to do: do not add lion's mane to coffee. Caffeine competes with the absorption pathway and reduces uptake of the active compounds. Take it separately, 30 minutes before your first coffee. Do not combine with immunosuppressant medications without medical supervision. Do not use if you have a known mushroom allergy. Do not purchase lion's mane blend products that combine multiple mushrooms. The dilution reduces effective dosing below the threshold used in research. What to expect? By day 7, most people notice a subtle but real shift in morning mental clarity, not dramatic. A slight reduction in the fog that used to be heaviest in the first hour of the day. This is the BDNF pathway beginning to respond. By day 14, word retrieval typically begins to improve. The pause before a name or a specific word starts to shorten. You may not notice it consciously at first, but people around you often remark that you seem more present in conversation. By day 30, the changes are consistent rather than occasional. The hippocampal network has had 4 weeks of NGF stimulation, and the new connections are integrating. Memory for recent events, what happened yesterday, last week, becomes more reliable. Remember what I said at the beginning, that the reason your memory is getting worse might have nothing to do with aging and everything to do with a protein your brain stopped producing enough of. By day 30, you will have direct evidence of whether that is true for you, because the protein will have been rising for 30 days, and you will feel the difference. 3 things that make the lion's mane protocol work faster, each one in 3 sentences. First, sleep on your left side. During sleep, your glymphatic system, the brain's overnight waste removal network, clears the toxic byproducts that accumulate during the day, including the debris from old, damaged neurons, making way for new ones. Sleeping on your left side increases glymphatic clearance by up to 25% compared to sleeping on your back because of how the lymphatic drainage vessels are anatomically positioned. Left side, pillow between the knees for comfort, every night. Second, walk for 10 minutes after lunch. Zone 2. Physical activity, a pace where you can speak full sentences but feel slightly breathless, triggers a secondary release of BDNF that stacks with what the lion's mane is producing. A 10-minute walk after your midday meal also stabilizes post-meal blood glucose, which protects the hippocampus from the inflammatory spike that follows high-sugar meals. Outside if possible, Morning light adds a separate cortisol-regulating signal through your eyes. Third, 5 minutes of slow breathing before you check your phone in the morning. 4 counts in, 6 counts out. Do this before you look at any screen. Cortisol peaks naturally in the first 30 minutes after waking. This is normal. But screen stimulation amplifies that peak and directs it toward the stress response rather than the wakeful clarity it is designed to produce. 5 minutes of slow exhalation-dominant breathing lowers that cortisol spike by a measurable margin before the day demands anything of you. Here is what we covered today. Your memory is not declining because of age. It is declining because BDNF, the protein that fertilizes your neurons, has been falling. Lion's mane mushroom prepared as a hot water extract raises BDNF and NGF simultaneously. The research is clear. The preparation method is the difference between results and nothing. Your brain did not develop this problem in a week. It will not fully recover in a few days. That is biology, not failure. What the research shows is that consistent targeted action over 30 to 90 days produces changes that are real and that you will feel. If this was useful, comment the word brain below. It tells me that this kind of specific practical information is what you want more of, and I will keep delivering it. In the next video, I'm going to show you something that might surprise you. A connection between what happens in your gut every morning and how clearly your brain functions by noon. The research is recent, the mechanism is well established, and most doctors have not had this conversation with you yet. Your brain is not broken, it adapted, and when you give it what it needs, it adapts back. Not instantly, but reliably. I will see you in the next one.